So I'm sitting there looking through my tent, saying, trying, am I really seeing what I'm seeing? Because what I saw was a partial head, the trapezius muscles, which are, by the neck, big shoulders, wide shoulders. And we kept staring at each other, and I was trying to go, am I really seeing this? Am I really seeing this? And then all of a sudden, it moved forward just a hair, and I saw behind the creature another one of similar proportions.
Well, Steve, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here with us and talking to us tonight, man.
Well, glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Steve, I know we were talking back and forth a little bit on social media, and you had said you had actually a couple sightings of Bigfoot, right?
Oh, yes, sir. Yep, that I did.
You saw more than one, I guess. You said in your first sighting, and that happened in Tennessee, was it?
Yes, one county over from where I'm at now. I live off of the Cumberland Trail / plateau, and the mountain chain runs for forever. It's part of the Appalachian Mountains also. But yeah, we got a lot of water, a lot of deer, a lot of turkey, a lot of just, natural resources available for anything to thrive.
Well, take us back to that day and tell us when it happened and what happened to you.
Okay, I went on a solo camping trip. It's a place called Laurel Snow Pocket Wilderness. It's in Ray County, Tennessee. Like I said, as I said, I went by myself. Uneventful night. I ate and everything. Turned the lantern off. Where I was located at is it's a gorge where there's probably 15 to 20 foot wide, at least 20 to 30 foot wide river bottom, big rocks and stuff. And on each side, you have steep embankments. I chose a place that was a little harder to get to, and walking up to the location, it has a lot of shell rock, so you would oftentimes slip and things of that nature. And I just basically set up there strategically since I was by myself. And so I would hear someone, coming up the trail, in the middle of the night. I was asleep. I was in a 2-man tent. I had the dome off of the 2-man tent because, just for airflow, stuff like that. Full moon, a lot of foliage though. But you can still see, of course, with your night eyes. Dead asleep, probably, I'm guessing 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And something told me to set up. And I knew something was coming. It's just a sixth sense, I guess you would call it. I'm hyper aware when I'm out in the woods. So I set up. I was looking straight out the tent, and I was looking at the trail. When all of a sudden I see movement, and then it stops. So I'm sitting there looking through my tent, saying, am I really seeing what I'm seeing? Because what I saw was a partial head, the trapezius muscles, which are, by the neck, big shoulders, wide shoulders. And I'd worked at a gym in California, and I've seen the biggest guys on the planet, Mr. Olympia's, things, guys like that. So just the sheer, only seeing half of it, but seeing the half that I saw, it was huge. I'm over 2 feet wide in the shoulders, and this thing had to be, I'm guessing from what I saw, I would guesstimate around 3.5 to 4 feet. It stood, and we kept staring at each other, and I was trying to go, am I really seeing this? Am I really seeing this? And then all of a sudden, it moved forward just a hair, like it was, coming towards me just a hair. And I didn't hear anything. And I looked, and I saw behind the creature another one of similar proportions. I'm not sure if it was looking down while it was walking. It just basically ran into the the second one. And, a lot of people go, there's no way, they can smell your scent. They can do this. They can do that. And I truly believe that. I mean, you can't sneak up on these guys. But where I was situated is at the top of this hill. There was wind blowing up from the ravine across the water. So I was upwind of anything. And, if it smelled a spent campfire, big deal. I'm sure I had to be used to that. But the real hairy moment, and it didn't take but 3 or 4 seconds after I saw something behind him. The creature behind him veered left to outflank him, to outflank me in the tent. And that's when the rush of urgency came over me. I'm like, and I did have a Smith & Wesson Colt Python 44 Magnum right at, right beside me. And I fumbled for it and found it and looked around, and then nothing. And I sat there, and my body was kind of like tingling. It's like, my God, did I just see what I saw? And especially for this thing to outflank me, showed intelligence to me. And like I said, I thought it was going to be a negative encounter, which was basically not very dramatic after I saw the creature try to outflank me. So that was my first encounter with a Sasquatch, if you would. I mean, I didn't tell my best friend for like at least a year. And I mean, and me and the guy I'm referring to, we had experienced, paranormal events in a house that I used to live in and things of that nature. But like I said, it took me a while to actually open up to him, and he was envious, of course. We're going to fast forward. I didn't report it until about 3 years later, because I went on the BFRO website, and just for the heck of it, I live in Hamilton County, Tennessee, and it's mostly, well, you have some outlying areas that are pretty rural outside of the city of Chattanooga. And I noticed that there was a sighting in Sell Creek, which is where I now live. Technically, I live 8 miles up a mountain. I'm a mile deep into the woods at a dead end. To the west of me are just hunting grounds where people, will pay money to, go deer hunt, turkey hunt, that kind of thing. Behind me to the south are rolling farmlands and the river system that I'm sorry, the river system, big creek. People can kayak down it when the water's up, stuff like that. But I'm just saying, it's hairy. It's very hard to navigate. As a person, you couldn't do it without ropes and things of that nature. So it's really hard to get to. In front of me, to my north, I have thousands of acres, in front of me, and that kind of made me think, well, there's a link here. I'm in Ray County, which is only 20 miles away from where I currently live now, and I saw where, someone had made a report of a Bigfoot crossing a road on one of these back roads down here. And so that started me, looking more into the Bigfoot phenomenon. I'm going to fast forward, say, from 2004 to 2012. I was part of a paranormal research group for about 10 years, and we were in Franklin, Kentucky, at a place called Octagon Hall. And Kentucky, for whatever reasons, is full of paranormal events. I mean, from UFOs to Bigfoot sightings to, other cryptids, things of that nature, ghost hunting, of course. we were told by the curator, Billy Bird at the time, God rest his soul, told us that there had been a Bigfoot sighting on the property, and directed us to where they had a footprint. And we went and checked it out and thought, wow, this is great. We're here for ghost hunting, but we've got, possible Bigfoot activity. So me and my buddy Mark, we travel. It's a big farmland field, full of history. It's a place where Dr. Gun Hall actually was used as a hospital at times for Union and Confederate soldiers. He was a Confederate sympathizer. But we were out in probably about a mile and a half back, and right in the middle of this field, you had, like, I guess, an island, you would call it. It's probably about a mile long and about 3/4 of a mile wide. It's just a big clump of trees right in the middle of the field. And we were, I had tried a couple of calls. I tried the whoop thing, didn't get any response. I've got a pretty good set of lungs on me from powerlifting for years, and I let out the most guttural, call that I could. And we either got an answer back, or it could have been an echo. We're not sure, or I'm not sure. We come upon this area I was telling you about, the island, and we saw movement by a tree. I mean, it was dark. We didn't have our lights on. We had, our just moonlight, basically for illumination. And we saw something lean out from a tree and kind of sway. And you see an arm sway, shoulder and arm sway, partial head, long arm. And we initially thought it was a shadow person, but the movement, and being warned that there was a possible Bigfoot on the property or a sighting, we thought, well, maybe this is, a Bigfoot. And what we did is I took turns. I mimicked exactly what this figure was doing. I mean, movement for movement. So Mark was behind me, watching me and watching the figure in the trees. I stopped, changed positions with him. I mean, this thing did this for about a minute and a half or so, which doesn't seem very long, but when you're there and you're seeing something. So I'm not sure if it was working itself up, because we were in its territory. I'm thinking if it would have been just one person, it could have been a violent encounter. Because, like I said, we were mimicking what it was doing. So I don't know if it took that as a threat or what, but because we had two people, and my logic was, we left it, and eventually it quit coming out from the tree. We didn't see anything. We walked all the way into the woods to where the sighting was, about 30 yards in front of us. And nothing was there. So, but I did have a witness on that one. So that was, and later that night, we actually had rocks thrown on top of a garage, which is located right near the hall. And so that was my second visual, and the only two visuals I've ever had. Now, about 10 years or 8 years ago, me and my wife Cynthia moved up on the mountain just to get away from the the noise pollution, the cars, police sirens, the whole nine. And like I said, we found what we're looking for. I mean, it's an hour drive one way to my work, but it's beautiful country and stuff like that. When I initially got here, I had access to property, to thousands of acres that are north of me, just right across the paved road. You have trees, and just it goes for thousands of acres. And I would go down, ride my four-wheeler, hell, sometimes 11, 12, 1, 2, just get the hankering to go down. And, I would go down, park in the water, listen to the water rush, things like that. Um, and what gave me a clue, I mean, I always felt like, especially on the way back up the mountain before I was getting close to the house, I'd kind of let her rip, haul ass a little bit, and always felt like there was something near me, something close by. Um, I don't know if it was juveniles that were, uh, running along with me, but off the path, about uh, 20 or 30 feet. Um, I always had that sensation. So one time, one of the nights I go down, I'm riding, and of course, on a four wheeler, you got fender welds, and that's to keep rocks, from kicking up on you or mud or whatever. But I was going down into the ravine, and a rock was thrown from my left side, and it wedged between my calf and the fender weld. Now, as you both know, you have to have an opposable thumb to throw a rock in a straight line at the very least. So that was, and I kept the rock. I mean, it had a piece of hair. I'm not sure if it was deer hair on it. It wasn't heavy. It was mostly mud and a little bit of a rock encased in mud. And it was probably about the size of the palm of your hand. So I found that, okay, there's definitely something, with me. Um, and there was a location that I would go to at times, which was probably about 2 miles away from the house. And, as far as Bigfoot is concerned, I kind of take more of the Native American approach to it. I mean, I do say a prayer and give thanks, to Mother Nature, God, our Creator, and things of that nature. And I will leave, I'll burn sage or either leave tobacco or jerky or something like that at a certain location. And I would, go back and check or, maybe some rocks, some colored stones, and I would go back, every couple of days or something and check. Every time I would go back, nothing was there. So I knew something was getting it. So I'm like, well, is there a raccoon or a possum eating tobacco? But what about these rocks? So that made me think that, yes, I'm on to something here. And one day, this was during the daylight, I'd crossed the creek, and just right off of the main trail, probably about 2 or 3 feet off of the trail, I spot a skull, a deer skull. And now this is an 8-point buck deer skull, and it is immaculate. There was not one spider web on it, not any leaves, not any debris. I mean, I've got it hanging above my hearth here at the house, right? I mean, as we speak, I'm looking at it, and it is in pristine condition. And I didn't see a spine. I didn't see a leg. All I saw was that head. I'm like, I'm tickled. Like, man, this is great. I found a deer skull. That'll look great. On the wall. And it dawned on me. It's like, Steve, you didn't see this 2 days ago, because when I'm in the woods, like I said, I'm hyper vigilant. I'm looking at everything. I'm listening. I'm smelling. I'm, you know, um, just trying to be aware of what's around me, especially because like at night, I mean, we do have the occasional black bear, possible mountain lions, which has been caught on trail came up here also, and I did pack a 45 Glock, the extra clip, but I've never shot, I never fired the weapon while I was out in the woods, either during the day or night. And so it dawned on me, it's like, Steve, they've gifted you. You've I think they're friendly. And one night, as I was headed home, I had it gunned for a little bit, and I stopped about halfway up the trail and turned off my four wheeler, sat down, thought, well, let me try to give a call. So I did a whoop, which after a few seconds or a minute or so, nothing. Then I thought, well, let's try the guttural, roar that the best that I could come up with at the time, and it echoed. I roared, and it echoed all throughout the forest. And as soon as that echo faded and stopped, 20 feet away from me, now this is pitch dark, I hear "Bah!" And it was a damn tree break, bro. I mean, and I just sat there and I laughed. I mean, actually, I laughed. I mean, I guess they showed my ass, you know what I'm saying? And it's to me, that just confirmed, that yes, there are. My view was probably some juveniles. I'm their only entertainment. Because like I said, I'm stuck out here at the very end of this road, surrounded by dense forest, and I have track lights that I keep on all the time, like blue or green or red, mainly a blue, kind of like a Christmas blue. I don't know what those Christmas lights look like. And I never, we always keep the blinds up. They're never shut, day or night. And the land was actually eventually ended up being sold to another owner who I do not have permission to be on that property anymore. So I thought, well, okay, I'll just have to find another place to ride. And it was a winter. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago. A winter day, cool, crisp, no leaves, on the trees or anything of that nature. And directly, I mean, if you look out my window, it's a big window. It's about probably 12 feet wide by 5 feet high. Is the three windows that face the woods there. And of course, like I said, I've got the lights and stuff. And I noticed that there was a tree bend. I mean, just from one day to the next. Because I mean, like I said, I'm hyper vigilant. I mean, I can spot. A guy lost his boot knife down in the woods, and I found it. And it was black. So I'm saying I'm very aware of my surroundings. If something's moved or whatever, that has actually became one of my gifting spots. What I will do is usually take an apple. There's a little bend. There's a little offshoot. The tree's probably only 3 inches around, and like I said, it's bent in a perfect half circle. The bottom is jammed into the ground. It wasn't snow that did it. It wasn't wind that did it. And so basically, I guess they're just showing me that, they will come there periodically for these apples. And what I've noticed over the last couple of years is directly south of me, like I said, is where the deep ravines are from the Cumberland Trail and stuff. My dogs will, how your dog barks. Now, if the person or something like that, they alert, and I could hear. Well, he's alerted me to something, and just right to the west side of the fence there, and so I go outside to see what the dog's barking at, and I don't see anything, but I smell a faint smell, which is similar to a skunk. Now, if you've ever been around a skunk that's sprayed, it stays. It can be there for days, weeks. But what I found interesting was that the smell trailed off back to the south, like it had came back the way I think my dog spooked it. And that's happened to me on 2 different occasions. Um, let's see. Now, I did find another place to go, just three houses up. I go down into this little holler. I call it my sanctuary. So that's the place I've been going since I could no longer go down into the deeper woods. Um, I did the same thing there, say some prayers, burn some sage, leave, apple, jerky, cream pies, stuff like that. And of course, where I put it at is, what a horse tie looks like. It's like a big H, and you got like the beam that comes across and makes the H where you can tie a horse off to. They can still keep their head up. Well, I usually put the apple or whatever on top of that horse tie-in, and I'd go back and there'd be 9 times out of 10 it's gone. I'm like, well, something, raccoon could have got this, possum could have got this. But then I started noticing little changes, in the creek itself. Like there's a log that runs across the creek, and the creek's only like 6 or 8 feet wide, and it doesn't get any deeper than like 3 feet, even when it floods, even when there's torrential rain. And I go down one day, and there is a tree with the root system exposed, no dirt on it, laid parallel to that log that I sat on, and somebody had to put it there because it was as wide as the creek. The water would have had to been 3 or 4 foot above ground for it to get wedged in like that. And of course, I looked to the right because the ball root was there. If it was a tree there, which I would have noticed, there wasn't a tree there. But like I said, I just looked, and there was no disturbance of the rocks or of the bank or anything like that. And so that's just one occasion there. One time I came down, and there was a rock that was placed up underneath the bottom of the log, fallen tree that I sat on, and dangle my feet in the water and just kind of, listen to the water gurgle. It's kind of like a Chinese water garden to meditate and, take it easy at. And then one day I built a fire, and I would often sometimes sing, with the headphones on, and, just to try to draw something in. I mean, I've never tried to take pictures. What I've tried to do is gain whatever clan that inhabits that area also. It seemed like I was getting trust. And sure enough, a month or so later, I go back down, I look at the fire pit, and there are 4 turkey feathers. 3 are laid just side by side perfectly, and the 4th feather was sticking straight up in the coals itself, in the spent coals. So that tells me, once again, opposable thumbs. So I truly believe that I've been gifted a second time. Do you have any questions for me? I know I've been kind of rambling, but I've got a little bit more to tell you about that area.
No, just keep on going.
Yeah, I got one. Hold on. Let's
okay. Sure.
Of course, God does. Back to your first encounter. How old were you when that happened?
Mid-30s.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 58 right now, but it was in the mid-30s, I believe.
So,
and like I said,
when they flanked you and took off, what happened after that? You just never saw them after that. Then
see, that's the damnedest thing about it, man. Is like most people, whenever they had an encounter like this, they freak out or whatever. I don't know if it's because I had that rush of adrenaline after it outflanked me, but I sat there in the, sat up in the same position I was in, listening. And I eventually, after about 15 or 20 minutes, man, I just went back to sleep. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but that's exactly what it is. I mean, in my mind, I think that they were just as surprised to see me as I was them. And like I said, luckily with the encounters that I've had, they've not been violent or aggressive in any way. You know, um, I think I did tell you about the once I did the big roar at the initial property that I used to go to. Like I said, it broke. Uh, the tree snapped. It sounded almost like a gun going off. It was like bam, like that. So
Do you think the gun
that's
that you had? Do you think the gun that you had, the 44, right? You said. Do you think that would have done
uh,
anything to them if you had to use it?
um, I would definitely, I mean, they're so thick. I mean, I did have hollow points in them, and it is a hand cannon. It is 6-inch barrel, nickel plated. But I only reached for the gun when I saw it outflank me. When it started moving, when it moved, I started looking for the gun. And that's the craziest damn thing about it is when I laid down to go to sleep that night, I put the gun directly where my hand was outstretched beside my right leg, and I could touch it. And when I set up and this thing outflanks me, it's like I can't find it for about 2 or 3 seconds at least. Like what the hell? Where's the gun? Where's the gun? And once I had the pistol in my hand, I'd look to the right to see if the thing was still there, if it was going to close in on me. I didn't see anything, didn't hear anything, and that to me, I guess they were watching how they were walking or something, or even in that dim light, because I did not hear a single stone. It was just some kind of sixth sense that told me, Steve, get up, and I did. And buddy, it was I got an eyeful. I mean, it was black, and it was darker than the dark, if that makes any sense. The colors seemed to flow smoothly, from what I could tell. Um, it was a big boy because there was another foot to step up to get to the top of where it levels out where my tent was. So I mean, what I looked at was at least 6.5 or 7 feet. So you got a foot to that, possibly an 8-footer. And like I said, the second one that ran into the first one, because like I said, no sound was made. I mean, it stopped on a dime when it saw me inside the tent. And when I saw, the figure, the silhouette, you know, no words were spoken. I didn't say anything. It didn't say anything. No grunt, no nothing. And then, like I said, something apparently just ran into him. It wasn't a violent collision. It was just enough to bump, and then it looked up. And then, as I said, at that time, about 2 or 3 seconds later, it starts to veer off to my left to outflank me. So that was when the only sense of urgency that I've ever had when it comes to that encounter.
Were you able to make any details out of the face? I know it was dark, but
No, I only saw a partial head. I didn't see the very top of the head. I could tell where the head had came up to look conical. It looked rounded on top. But no, as far as getting a good visual on it, all I saw was part of the head, the shoulders, the trapezius muscles here by the neck, the deltoids, which are your shoulders, and it just looked very wide from what I could see.
go ahead and take us into the other encounters you're going to talk about there real quick before you.
Okay. Um, I had two friends. my buddy Mark and AJ, they are they run the paranormal research group that I used to be in. I told them about the activity, here, and we had a fire going, and we were sitting around, had a few brews, and we placed ourselves at 3 different spots along the fire, one in front, one in back, and one on the side to try to catch any movement. Well, my buddy AJ, he took a picture through the fire, and in the background, you can see a tree and what looks like something squatted down. You could see I could see like the foot, he was on the balls of his toes, the heels were up, I could see the calf, I could see the bent knee, and then you just see a shape that's just, like I said, for lack of a better word, like a big silverback. I mean, it was had the same head shape, things things like that. And that was found after he reviewed the photos from from our little trip down there. We stayed there most of the night, and then let's see. More recently, the last thing that I've gotten down there is I used a digital voice recorder, to record, to see if I could pick up any noises or anything like that. And when I retrieved the recorder the next day, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, 15 minutes after you hear my four-wheeler, get up and out of the woods, I heard you could hear the first tree knock. Then you hear 30 minutes later, rock clacking. And the best evidence I got was I heard on two different occasions, there's 2 steps, and it's like boom, boom. And like I said, I had the recorder on top of that horse tie off there, so it's at least 6 or 7 foot above ground, and it picked up the vibration of those 2 steps both times. You can hear it plain as day on the audio recording, and you can hear what sounded like activity around it. I mean, my buddies wanted me, like, man, you need to take pictures. You need to. I mean, I've actually got a picture of a footprint. I didn't cast it or anything, but I put my foot beside it, and there's definitely I wear a 12E 4E wide, and this thing had to be at least a 15 or 17-inch track, and it was probably 5 or 6 inches wide, at the top of the foot. The heel tapered off, but this is in ground that was hard, and me walking with boots on, it wouldn't leave a print at all. But like I said, I got that picture, and I've kept it. But for me, the real clincher was, being gifted the turkey feathers, and then hearing that audio. I mean, my friends want me, I mean, you need to take pictures, and I'm like, man, I'm not. I've worked for years to have a relationship or a trust, habituate the place, and I don't want to. And even now, I'm not out there with a camera trying to post. This is the first podcast I've ever been on, even though all the activity that's been going on around me nightly, almost between 9:30 and 10 every night, just about every night. I'd say 5 out of 7 days, you'll hear the dogs will alert to the gifting tree bend across the street, and then followed by that are coyotes. And I've been told by some that coyotes follow Bigfoot during their hunts for scraps, and I believe that they sometimes ruin the hunt for the Sasquatch, because there was one night I heard some yipping, and like coyotes yip in the distance. And then I heard the god awful. It's just like something grabbed this coyote and just it was like that. And I didn't hear other dogs growling. Like, I know coyotes will turn on a sick coyote or something like that, but this thing was getting mangled, man. And as far as other sounds I've heard what at the sanctuary, which is further from my house, I heard what sounded like a bull, like that, but it ended with a moan, and I'm like, "There's no bull up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Most of them would be asleep. Most cattle." And I found that to be, pretty much proof positive. Also, I'm getting everything but an actual visual. Like I said, I've been gifted twice. I hear the weekly um, um, dogs alerting to the gifting bent tree marker. That's where I put the apples at. But that's pretty much about all I've got, guys. Is there any questions I can help you with?
Yeah, if I could remember what I was just going to ask you. I always do that all the time.
I know I had a brain fart earlier too. I'm like,
at the beginning, you said you had some paranormal stuff going on too.
Oh God, buddy, that would take a whole. I've got so much, so many things over the years. I mean,
that's another.
I've always been
maybe?
kind of. Yes. I mean, I'm telling you, I lived in the house that we moved from. Very, very active. I had to give up doing the ghost hunting because I would always get hitchhikers, what I call hitchhikers, or spirits that follow you home. Now, I can say the Lord's Prayer, St. Michael's Prayer, I can sage, but I kept getting followed home. I mean, I would wake up, with claw marks, bruises. I mean, the wife has experienced things when she lived with me there also, and she's pretty much a skeptic. Several. I mean, there's so many instances of paranormal activity at the old house that I used to live in. But the negative spirits feed off of negative energy. And at the time I wasn't seeing my kids. I was distraught. I had a ex who, kept my kids from me for 20 years, basically. That kind of thing. So, all the Father's Day, all the Christmases, I didn't see them. There's just a lot of sorrow, a lot of anger, a lot of rage. And these negative entities, that's what they feed off of. That and fear. Luckily, I don't scare easy. I mean, I guess by telling you that first Sasquatch encounter, I'm either full of it or I've got some cojones. And like I said, I mean, I experienced my first shadow person when I was 7 years of age, at a different location from what I've mentioned. And I don't know, just being open and, being sensitive to that type of phenomena is a blessing and a curse. I mean, like with EVPs, for example. So the three of us are talking right now. So if we're all talking, but you hear in between, a voice that is not ours saying, I'll kill you, or, leave, or whatever, so, but yeah, the last couple years of living in that house, the paranormal activity was really, really bad. One time when me and the wife saged the house, of course, you open up the windows, you go in a counterclockwise position, open up all the windows in your house, saying the Lord's Prayer. We're saying St. Michael's Prayer, and we go through the living room. and it sounded like, for lack of a better word, like a cat in distress, like, and you could hear it getting more and more distant, further outside of the house. Um, you know, I definitely think there was a possible portal in that home that we had moved from 8 or 10 years ago. Um, but there was, you have what you call residual energy, which is a phenomena where like something is like a record that plays a loop. Ever since I was in junior high, high school, the whole, whenever I moved back from LA and moved back into that home, you could hear someone walk up on the porch, open the door, shut it, hear them walk, hear the footsteps walk up through the living room into the hallway, and it would always stop right there at the hallway. Um, I would see daily um, shadow people, just fleeting glimpses, something darting, just right outside your peripheral vision. And I've got very good peripheral vision because I notice any type of movement. I mean, we are humans as predators or by binocular vision. We focus. You know, and but yeah, I've had uh, people from, I mean, relatives, friends, my wife have experienced, multiple episodes there. There was one time, me and my cousin Chip, who lived with me at the time, um, we were sitting down watching TV, and we heard somebody walk across the front porch and knock on the door. Like, oh, who the hell's that? Open the door, boom, nobody there. I mean, that's just another example of, that type of activity. Um, but I do believe that I did have what you call um, an incubus and a succubus. You have a male and female demon that basically thrives off of your sexual energy. And I would wake up with bruises on my inner thighs, claw marks on my ass, on my back. I mean, the last night that I stayed there, it knew that it was my last night there. And I stayed in the house by myself. And I kid you not, the next day when I woke up, I had claw marks on my stomach, on my ass. I mean, at one point, I was on a different occasion. I was walking through the kitchen and had my shirt off, and the wife's going, "What's that on your back?" Like, what are you talking about? Now, when you get scratched by an entity, um, it feels like, for lack of the best thing I can come up with, like an acid burn. I mean, it is like on fire, and I didn't feel it until she said something about it. And sure enough, she took pictures, and I had 3 claw marks in the middle of my back, but they were the size of like a cat's paw, but there were only 3 claws, and it actually brought blood, you know. So that, I knew I needed to leave that place because it's just getting worse and worse. It was, like I said, it was feeding off of my anger, my rage. And I'll go ahead and tell you my main story here of the house that and if people don't believe it, that's fine. I mean, I have nothing to gain by telling you this, but on 2 different occasions, I had been asleep in my bedroom, um, had a vision that there was something standing beside my bed. Now, most people freeze in fear. Unfortunately, I had a very violent upbringing um, when I was younger. So, you know, I'd jump out of the bed, punching and kicking, trying to punch and kick at this apparition, and of course, nothing there. Couple days later, I have a similar vision in my mind that there's something standing by the side of your bed, Steve. And when once again, you either let the fear freeze you and it feeds off of you and it gains power, or you fight. I fight. It's just a test of wills, basically, in my mind. The stronger the will, the stronger, the less power the negative entity will have. And what I saw was a hooded, cloaked, humanoid looking, it looked like a human in it, but the face was totally black. The eyes, where the eyes would be, was like a skeleton. I saw like mold and just decay just falling off of the face. And this was all in a split second, when I jumped up and tried to, how are you going to punch a spirit? But that's just, this is how I reacted to it. So the next morning I get up, getting ready to go to work, and I notice movement. And I look at the foot of my bed, and there's maggots on at the foot of my bed. And so I was like taken aback, like, my God, I mean, did I sleepwalk? Did I step on a dead possum or something? And because I know, maggots have to have a host to eat, to live, to turn into flies eventually. Didn't say anything, got back from work. And this is at the time my cousin Chip was living with me. And so when I got home, I looked, and there's still maggots where I left them. They were at the foot of the bed. I looked closer. There were some on the floor. There were some at the top, behind my bed, at the head of the bed. So I'm like, okay, I'm taking all these covers off and shit. I've got to wash these. This is just nasty. And the mattress I had was pretty worn out. So I had 2 quarter-inch sheets of plywood on top of the box spring and in between the mattress. So whenever I took the sheets off, I went ahead and pulled the mattress off, and my cousin was there to help me. And I lift up that first sheet of plywood, and I'll be damned, God is my right hand to God. There were maggots in between those 2 boards. Now you tell me how in the hell a fly could get in there and lay those eggs. And I mean, because some of the maggots were desiccated, they were brown, some were alive, and that told me, buddy, you've got some real problems here. You just need to leave this place as soon as you can. A couple years later, I ran into my soon-to-be wife, and we did move out. But that was my most horrendous, unbelievable story. Well, not story, it's the truth. Because, like I said, hell, the maggots were real. I mean, hell, I'd sweep them up, wipe them up, bleach the floors, the whole 9 yards, man.
Steve,
so yeah, paranormal has always been part.
Yeah, Steve,
Sorry, go ahead.
That's great stuff, man. The
Yeah,
Bigfoot
I mean,
and everything
that's
else.
true.
Definitely wild. Definitely wild.
Do you think?
I mean,
What do you
think?
Why do you think it's happened to you so much? I mean,
well, some people, like I said, are sensitive to things of that nature, which I have always been ever since I've been a young kid. I did have a near-death experience also. I used to be a former power lifter, and I had my first hernia surgery, and then I ended up having to get 3 more because the hernia would push out of the mesh that they inserted into the abdomen. I mean, they gutted me like a trout. I'm talking like from my pubic bone all the way up past my where the belly button would be, about 3 inches above that. And I've been cut on so many times. I don't even have a belly button. I just got a hell of a scar, you know. And the last surgery that I had, I was in the recovery room, and my wife was there with me, and my stomach was just getting so distended. I mean, and I could, you know, I was in great pain, and I've got a high tolerance for pain too. But I was like kicking the bed and stuff. I'm like, man, I need more, I need some meds. This is killing me. And the nurse actually, you know, kind of got on me. She said, look, I've given you enough to tranquilize the horse, you know, like that. So I proceeded to get out of the bed because I had to pee, and the wife was behind me. And when I was urinating, I felt pain. And my wife said, I looked into your eyes, Steve, and I could see your life fading. And what she did is she got in touch with my surgeon, convinced him to go back in because there was something wrong. Well, she was right. 7 pints of blood and 5 days in ICU. There you go. If she literally saved my life. I mean, if I was left there with that damn nurse, I would have been a dead guy. I mean, hell, 7 pints, your body only holds 10 or 11 based on size. And I had like 7 pints of blood they had to pump back into me because it was all bleeding from my hernia repair into my stomach. And my stomach, buddy, was just so distended. It just big pot belly, you know. And but no, she actually saved my life. So I mean, people who have near death experiences like that often have a connection with different realms, if you will, or the spirit world. Keep it simple, you know. But yeah, my life's been full of things of that nature. Like I said, from seven years old all the way to now. I mean, where I live now, you know, we saged the place when we came in. There's no negative energy here. It's a good place. It's a pure place to live. It's, you know, clean air, clean water. We have well water. We're real remote. You know, we have boosters so that I can use social media like we're doing now. Without that, you could only, when we first got here, you could text off of the back patio at one spot and you'd get one bar, and that's all you could do. So like I said, I'm out in the middle of the boonies, you know, but this place is, the energy in this house is so much better. And like I said, I haven't had any negative encounters since then, you know, so that's a blessing from the Lord himself. And,
for sure,
you know, I'm just, there's so much that the average Joe out there does not realize. I mean, just like with the EVP recorder, you're hearing voices. I mean, our sight and our hearing on a scale of, you know, 1 to 100, we could, you know, megahertz or whatever, just for example, we only hear maybe 20 out of the 100. You know, hell, that's why dogs can hear better. That's why they sense things, you know. And you know, and animals and babies are sensitive to paranormal activity also. I mean, have you ever been holding a baby and see it stare up, just Google, and like, you wonder what the hell they're looking at? You know what I'm saying? What are they seeing that you can't see?
Right.
So I mean, there's a world out there that, you know, people just do not realize, you know, in their day-to-day lives, you know. And I've been lucky enough. I do consider it a blessing. Like I said, sometimes not so much when it comes to the negative entity stuff. But like I said, that's why after 12 years of being a paranormal researcher, you know, I had to give it up, you know.
Well, Steve, we want to thank you so much for coming on tonight and talking to us, man. We really appreciate it, and we're glad you're here.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Hey,
Thank you.
I appreciate the invite, and I'll definitely have to start listening to you guys' podcast.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah,
you
we
go.
do.
If you got more stories down the road, we'll get you back on and do some more
Yeah,
talking.
stay in touch.
All right, brother. We appreciate you. You have a good night, man.
Appreciate
All
you
right,
too,
Steve,
sir.
Take care.
you too.
All right, take care, buddy. Thanks.
All right, brother.